That's the signature right there.
I'm here with your boy Sean Phoenix and Mr. Leo Shang. How are you today, Leo?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, bro.
Listen, I've been thinking about that for a week now, how I was going to do that and if it was going to work. So I'm glad you were.
I'll give you an 8 out of 10, my dude. You
Hey,
yeah,
8 out of 10. That's
I will take 8 out of 10, sir. So, for anybody that's listening that doesn't know, as his name suggests, Extreme Philly Fishing, he is a YouTube angler and someone that Sean and I have been following and very interested in a long time. And Leo, Sean actually told me a really cool story. Sean, if you wouldn't mind sharing it with him before we start letting him talk.
Yeah. So I got to be honest, and I don't know if this is, yeah, I don't know what you hear from your fans, but when I found your content, it was 5 years ago. I was going through a rough time. I was bouncing back and forth between my parents' house and my in-laws. I'd recently lost my job, and I really didn't have a lot of positive things going on. And then I found some random guy's YouTube channel. His name was Extreme Philly Fishing. It was all about fishing in urban environments, and I was like, "You can't catch fish at Philly. Come on, you can't catch fish there." So I started watching, and I really refound my passion for fishing, and was able to use that to get out of a bad spot, emotionally and mentally. So I really appreciate everything that you do and have done for YouTube and the fishing community, and what you helped me to do. So that's I guess the stone that set everything in motion, that led us to this moment to get here. So
I see, I see. Wow, man, I'm very glad, to hear that things worked out for you, right? That you have been positively influenced by my social media, my YouTube channel. I do interact with my fans a lot, so I mean, I'm very glad because every week, I hear stories like this, and people they pick up the fishing, man. It's good, physically and mentally speaking, right? Like you said, you never thought about it. The urban environment, right? There's fish over there. You probably went out there, you explored, right? You caught some fish here and there. And little by little with time, man, I'm glad that things got better for you, That's a wonderful story, brother.
awesome.
And then, of course, naturally, us being friends, family, and former coworkers, we used to work together. He showed me your videos, and your brand and your style of angling to me was so unique, and that it left an impression on me because where me and Sean come from, the idea of urban angling is very odd. We're from a very rural setting.
I see.
Obviously tons of opportunity for micro fishing and life lists and things like that, but it's just never something we considered doing. And if you wouldn't mind, I want to get into your background a little bit and figure out how you got to the point of where you're doing the angling that you're doing now.
Of course, so, absolutely.
So I guess congratulations right off the bat. You just got your U.S. citizenship, right?
Oh, that is correct. Thanks, man. Appreciate it, Zach, Sean. Yeah, that's what's up.
Absolutely.
So if you wouldn't mind me asking, where did your family immigrate from?
So my family is originally from China. Do you guys drink beer? Do alcohol at all?
A little bit.
Okay, so I mean, there's a beer out there that is actually called Tsingtao. I don't know if you guys ever heard about that beer, but that Chinese beer is like my family is originally from that city, from Tsingtao in China, right? Back in the days, China was not doing so well. This was like back in the 70s, right, when my parents were young, 20 to 30s. China also had this policy back in the days called the one-child policy, and I have an older sister. So my parents already had one kid. So they decided to be a little bit adventurous, go out there into the world, they gathered the little bit of money that they had, and they actually headed to South America. We had a family member in South America, in Bolivia at that time. So my family started in Bolivia in 1987, opened a little restaurant, and just worked in the restaurant. And then 2 years later, my mother got pregnant with me. And my father, he just thought, Bolivia is such a small country in South America. He didn't want me to be born in Bolivia for some reason. Don't ask me why, right? So they thought, wow, Brazil is like so big, let's go to Brazil. So they just migrated to Brazil, and I was born and raised in Brazil. And that's pretty much the story. Half of my life, I lived in Brazil, and then I came to the United States for college. And here am I right now, right? Just ended up here. Just got my citizenship.
Sean, you didn't hear any of the previous conversation, but I was telling him about how I moved.
Mhm.
And Leo was gracious enough to say about how brave it was and how awesome it was.
That's true. That is true.
What I did is peanuts compared to what your family has done.
Oh, but still, man, man, it's hard to live the comfort of the everyday life and everything that and just head into the unknown. So it doesn't really matter if the stories are so different, as far as you took that step, brother, it means a lot. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I can get down with that. Now, has your family always been interested in angling, or is that something that's unique to you?
Oh, actually, yeah, my family was always a family type of thing. Back in China, back in Tsingtao, when my grandfather, right, my father's father was still alive, my family used to be very poor. I'm not going to go into the background details because that would take too much time. But when my father was growing up in Tsingtao, yeah, we were a very poor family in Tsingtao. So most of the times, people would go out there, including my family, to just go to the sea and catch some fish so that you would have like your protein of the day, right? So it is a little bit ironic, actually. But since like that generation, my family was already all about multi-species. They never really targeted one specific species of fish. It was all about, getting whatever you can today so that you could put something on the table. So after my family migrated to Brazil, when I was born, my father obviously missed my grandfather a lot. So he kind of carried the culture, the custom, right? And when I was old enough, he started to take me to the local reservoir. And I'm gonna be sincere with you, Zach and Sean. Back in the days, it was no catch and release or conservation. We just went to the reservoir, and it was the same game. It's like whatever you catch, we're just taking back to the dinner table and eating it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now I kind of look back at it, and it was really bad because we took a lot of fish from that reservoir, But yeah, back in the days, especially in Brazil, right? The reservoir was right next to the favelas too, which is kind of like the ghetto, the hood, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone used to go there. Same situation as my family in China back in the days. It's just we want to catch something so that we're able to put some protein on the table, right? Different culture.
Yeah, I think the difference in the utilitarian look at fishing versus I think what we would consider sport fishing
absolutely
is an interesting thing to consider.
Oh, yes.
Because, Sean and I have never had to worry about going out and catching dinner.
Right.
I mean, if Sean did, he'd probably have to worry a little bit, but.
Whoa. Last trip, I caught a sheephead. We've talked about this.
That's true. You did.
It was a 21 incher. I could have ate one, maybe two meals.
Dude, that's a delicious
between me and the kids. Come on now.
I'll tell you that.
So after you immigrated from Brazil to here, what was kind of like the onus of you starting a YouTube channel? What brought that thought into your head?
Hey man, that's another long story. You guys okay with the?
Hey man,
that's
why we asked you on here.
Okay, beautiful. All right, let's talk about the background then. So when I came to this country, it was back in 2007. I came here for college. So I started in Philadelphia Community College of Philadelphia. It was tough for me. I did not know the language. When I first came to this country, I didn't even know how to speak English. I only knew the vocabulary from like movies and trading card games and video games that I used to play back in Brazil. So, I mean, you can imagine, right? You come to a new country with new culture, new customs, and you have to make new friends and learn a whole new language. Needless to say, 2007 to 2011, those 4 years, they were very stressful years for my life. So one of the days I was just walking around community college, and folks who know Philadelphia, they know community college is actually a few blocks away from the Schuylkill River. So I walked to the Schuylkill River and I saw some folks fishing, right? And that's when I was like, man, I used to fish with my dad every weekend, right? And I need to de-stress right now. So I just went to my local Dick's Sporting Goods. I got a very cheap fishing rod combo, $15, Daiwa Samurai. I still remember the thing bent like crazy because there was no backbone, you know. It was one of those really, really cheap combos. And I went to the Schuylkill River to fish. And this is the part where I really got surprised when I was fishing down the river. And that was my first time, you know, new experience for me. A bunch of the locals who just jogged or walked around the trail there, they would stop by and ask me, the outsider, what I'm catching in the river. And I could not believe, after talking to a bunch of people, how they believed that there was no life, no fish in that urban environment. As a matter of fact, a bunch of people who just walk by the river, they always thought that the Schuylkill River was like the sewage of the city. So there was no biodiversity over there at all. So this was in 2011, and I started my fishing blog. That was my first social media platform with the main objective of free information for the open public. It was pretty much I go out fishing, I write my fishing reports, and I let people know that there are fish swimming out there and that they should go there too and give it a try. Fast forward a few years, I met a bunch of wonderful people via the blog. As a matter of fact, this is going to sound very interesting, but One Rod, One Reel Fishing back in 2010, 2011, when I just started the blog, he read my blog in Philadelphia. He was in Philly at Drexel University going for biology. I was transitioning from community college to Temple University for a degree in physics. And he read the blog and he was surprised about all the different fish. So he went out there to the Schuylkill River to catch some fish. And, you know, he sent me photos of like a species that even I didn't get back then, like walleye and stripers and hybrid stripers at the Fairmount Dam. And I was like, wow, dude, like we have to get together and do some fishing. So for the next 3, 4 years, Mike and I, while we were going together to college, even though we were going to different institutions, we will get together every week and just explore the different spots around the city, write on the blog. And this is, you know, this comes to the point of your question. Around 2014, I believe One Rod, One Reel Fishing it started to work on his YouTube channel. And he started filming with a very, you know, cheap camera on a hat. I remember it was a Tachyon camera, and the quality was horrible. But he would post those things on YouTube, and people would watch with very little editing, just him fishing out there, and his channel started to grow. And a few videos went viral, right? And he started to make money out of it. So in 2015, by that time, I got my master's in education, right? I was going full mode tutoring, but then I looked at his channel and I was just like, whoa, wait a second. There's actually a chance in, you know, turning this into my career. So my parents, obviously, they were not happy about that, but I decided to make a transition, do a little gamble. And in 2015, I started my YouTube channel, like working more seriously on my YouTube channel. And that's actually how it came to be. It's actually fascinating that it's like, One Rod found my blog and we got together, and then he started. So I influenced him positively in a certain way. And then years later, his YouTube picked up a lot and he influenced me in a positive way. So, I mean, it's pretty interesting. It is pretty interesting for sure.
Did you start the YouTube channel in the same vein as the fishing blog? Were you just going out fishing spots and then making your videos about reporting back on those spots?
Yeah, definitely. I would say so. For the first 2 years or so, it was all about just going out there, putting the species of fish that I caught right for the day. I was actually a little bit more naive back in the days. I trusted people a little bit too much. So I would sometimes put too much information in my videos, including all the fishing locations and everything, right? So I didn't give too much thought about that. But back in the days, yeah, 2015 to 17, it was more about that. And then after that is when the live listing really started to pick up. And I kind of gave the channel a theme that was, okay, now I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to catch different species of fish, right? To increase my numbers for my live list. And, different stages for the channel, sponsorships and stuff. But mainly it has been about that.
Sean, I think you need to take over on the life list and the microfishing stuff, because I think that was what kind of caught your eye at first, right?
Yeah. Zach has mentioned before, our area is pretty rural. There's two kind of fish that people around here fish for, bass and catfish. If you're fishing for anything else, you're fishing for bait or fake fish. That's what everybody calls them. So, especially after watching and learning a little bit more, my mentality when I went out there to fish was always just whatever I could catch. My dad kind of grew up, spent a lot of time in Florida, and he would fish in like limestone pits that they have down there. And he talked about bluegill that would lay in your hands, vertically and still just barely cover your hands. And so when I was growing up, Dad always power fished in the way that he thought power fishing should be done. So that's what I started doing when I was younger. And then I know Zach and I went to a creek wade, and he took me out in the middle of nowhere, basically a spot that I'd driven past 100 times, and he was like, "Get in there, there's fish." I said, "Man, come on now. There's no way we're going to go down there in that creek and walk around behind all these people's houses, through their farms and fields and stuff. We're not going to catch any fish. You're kidding." And I think that trip we caught pumpkin seed and rock bass and smallmouth and
spotted bass.
The typical creek species. And I was like, man, this is way more fun than standing on the bank at a lake and throwing the same tired salamander or lizard lure or worm out there and not catching anything. So, I mean, from that moment on, I haven't gotten into microfishing yet.
Okay.
But I found and this is one that I think Zach might still be a little salty about. There's a blog called Big Bluegill. That's all it is. It's a forum. And one of the posters on that forum suggested using a 64th ounce jig head and a 3/8 inch pencil float. And I was like, man, come on, there ain't no way. I had to search through stacks and stacks at Walmart just to find that stuff. And I found it and paired it with a Berkeley Gulp minnow, and I was out fishing Zach with his Rebel Wee Crawl, and look at him shaking his head.
Fake news.
Started a whole cavalcade of ridiculous fishing trips and ridiculousness, So
Yeah.
the question that I have behind all of that is what really helped transition from just, hey, are there fish in this spot, to, how many different species of fish can I really pull out of here? How much biodiversity is there really here to offer?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. Back in the days, like I mentioned previously, when I was a kid, my father and I, we would do the multi-species, we wouldn't go for anything specific. But like you said, it wasn't like the mentality like, okay, today we're going down to the reservoir and we're going to find out how many different types of fish are is swimming down here, right? Or make a count to see how many we can catch today. It was very chill. We just went there, threw our stuff out there, and one day my dad would be like, okay, let's go for the catfish, another one for the carp, right? Or the cichlids, right? I think it was around when I was a teenager that I was playing video games down in Brazil. And back in the days, man, there used to be, I mean, this still exists, okay? But back in the days when I used to have my Game Boy, like the really old one, that was like
Oh,
the
yeah.
big gray one, that you could kill someone in the head with that stuff, right? With 480 batteries in the back. There used to be a game called The Legend of the River King by this Japanese company called Natsume. Same company who makes this other game called Harvest Moon, but I'm not gonna get into
Okay.
it, right? I played this Legend of the River King, and if you're familiar with other video games, like for example Pokemon, right? That has a list of all the Pokemon in the game called the Pokédex. The Legend of the River King was a game that you just did some quests in the game. There was a plot, a storyline, but there was something very similar to that that was like a fish dex, that it was just a log of all the different species of fish that you caught in the game. So it really stemmed from that video game, the idea that is like, okay, I want to start my own logs now, like my kind of own fish decks, right? And that's where the whole mentality of life listing suddenly came to me when I was a teenager. It's like, okay, from today onwards, I'm going to write down every single fish species that I have ever caught, and every time I go to a new location, I'm gonna keep my eyes open so that I will observe and see, what else is around there. And over the years, this kind of just evolved to the point that nowadays I'm 32 years old now. I'm still going to different spots now, exploring new places. But yeah, the mentality is like, okay, I want to always add more fish to that list. And in order for me to do so, I need to have a better understanding of the ecosystems out there, right? Especially of this specific body of water. And therefore, I'm going to use whatever gear I got to catch as many different species of fish out there as possible. So that is how it kind of came to be. For me, it was a very weird way because the majority, for example, if you talk to other life listers in particular in the United States of America or in Europe, in the Netherlands, right? There's a bunch of them. It is usually someone introduces you to that. So it's like, okay, I didn't know about life listing, but I went fishing with my friend Zach, my friend Sean, and they introduced it to me. So now, wow, I really like it. I'm going to do it too. But when I was a kid in Brazil, there were no life listers around. Everyone is just the culture of I'm gonna catch the fish and eat it. So it's interesting, but it really came from a video game, and yeah, it's just like that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sean, I guess I got to stop using the hashtag tackle boxes, not Xboxes.
I've been telling you for months now.
I know. You take the life listing thing to me to another level, though, because not only do you know, like, what Sean and I would call a species of fish, but you know the Latin terminology of that fish. It seems like your fish knowledge is, I'm going to speak for Sean here, 100 times more superior than ours.
Encyclopedic at times.
Okay, that's a little bit. I appreciate the kind words, but you guys definitely flatter me when it comes to that. I guess even within the life listing community, this is just something that, yeah, it's like unique to me. I have some life listing friends, obviously, who when you catch that species of fish over and over and over again, you start to memorize. You just start to memorize the scientific name, right? The Latin name. But for me, yeah, I've always enjoyed to know as much as I possibly can about the different species of fish out there, right? I kind of joke to my parents too that if I had more time and more money in life, I would probably go back to college and try to get a degree in marine biology, zoology, or anything like that, and then try to get a degree in ichthyology, right? which is the study of fishes. But man, that would take 4 to 8 years, right? And I'm 32 already, and I mean, all the schedule and everything that I like, time is very limited for me nowadays, right? Things are very hectic. So what I found out, like, instead of doing that, is just I will go like the amateur way, right? Which is just buying a lot of books online. I have some college books like right in front of me on top of my stand over here, and when I have free time, I read them. Fish identification books, college books, right? Anything that will give me more knowledge on different species of fish out there. Because I mean, sure, I'm a YouTuber and I fish for a living, right? But this is a topic that, for me personally, it has always been something like really, really cool. You know, it's like just something that you're passionate about. So I've always been passionate about fish for some reason. You know, yeah. So that's how it is. Yeah.
So your understanding of fish, does it change the way you look at a body of water? So for Sean and I, we know some very basic things about, let's say, crappie.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that crappie spawn at a certain time of the year, and if we want a really hot bite, we need to go when the water temperature's a certain temperature. Beyond that, my knowledge is very limited on water qualities to look for. Sean, what you got to say?
They feed upwards. Can't forget that.
Feed upwards. Yep. But I don't think that I have much more of a deep understanding than that. When you look at a body of water, what are things you're looking for to assess whether it's a good body of water or not?
Actually, that's a very good question. I mean, I don't give it really too much thought nowadays when I go explore somewhere new. This is just my personal style. I would like to emphasize. I will give you an example, right? For example, a lot of life listeners nowadays, when they go explore new places, they actually enjoy and like networking with other people so that they can do as much possible research, right? When it comes to the places that they're going to fish, so that when they go there, they have a limited amount of time to fish. They can maximize their chances of catching as many different species of fish as possible. So, for example, the average life lister out there, I'll talk to my friends out there. I'll let them know, look, these are the locations I'm going to. What have you caught over there? What is available over there, right? Where are the fish located at? So once they pinpoint all of these dependent variables, they can go out there. And once they get to the lake or the pond or the reservoir or the creek, they can just look like, oh, I think the micros are going to be at the rocks, or I think this species is going to be over here. But for me, I really like things to be ad lib nowadays. I am all about the scientific method. So even though I know that there is information out there that could help me a lot when it comes to exploring this body of waters, I really like to just go the empirical way, and I just research the place that I'm going to. Every fishing trip that I do on YouTube nowadays, it is like that. For example, years ago, I went to Louisiana and I wanted to fish Lake Pontchartrain. I did a little bit of Googling only, just to know like the basic species that would be in that particular lake. But you know, Google nowadays and Wikipedia, right? They really don't have everything that you want to know about, especially when it comes to the species of fish that people usually don't target. You put like Lake Pontchartrain, it's gonna show up like bass, you know, or like you said, the crappie, or whatever is there that people like to target, right? They're not going to talk like, for example, oh, there's a rare exotic darter that exists around the area, or like tiny minnow, right? So that's the part for me that it is really fun. I just go to the body of water, I observe, and I start, you know, just going textbook style, looking for cover, structure, changes in water depth, trying different approaches, right? Different lures, different techniques, different baits, side fishing, throwing my bait out there. And little by little, you know, everything that you do throughout the day, you start to accumulate a little bit of knowledge here and there. And if you have more time, more availability, maybe you hit the same spot tomorrow again. And it's really like that scientific method, you know, you just get everything that you already know and you start finding, oh, this new thing is very cool, man. So that's how I like to do things nowadays.
Sean, I'm so basic.
Zach and I joke a lot. The majority of our fishing kit is a Roadrunner,
Okay.
a Cinco or other similar stick bait,
Okay.
and a square bill crankbait. That's really it. If it's not one of those three things, I'm lost most of the
Man,
time.
that's a good selection. You know what I'm saying? That's a good selection.
What's your life list up to now? How many species are you on?
I'm currently at 309 different species.
309?
Yeah, but you
I
know
don't-
that's the thing though. When you look at that number, right? You would be like if you are not a life lister, you would be like, dude, 309. But when you are within the life listing community, there are many, many other people out there who have way more than I have, right? I mean, the top three right now in the life listing community for species is way over 1,000, right? With the guy on top, probably more than 1,500 or even 1,700 right now. So 300, even within the life listing community, I mean, it is respectable, but it is still like I'm on the bottom of the food chain. I'm the minnow, you know. I still need to go up there. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even know there were that many different species in North America, Sean.
So here's the one, I think, the question that'll floor you, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
How many fish have you caught this year, Leo?
Oh man, this year has been very slow for
Mhm.
me. You know, if I just grab my phone and my phone's right in front of me, I can give you the numbers right over here
Absolutely.
because I log everything when it comes to my fishing, right?
That was
So,
gonna be a follow-up question if you keep a fishing journal, but go ahead
oh,
and continue.
absolutely. I keep my fishing journals, every single fish that I catch, even if it is just like bluegill. If I caught 60 bluegill today, I'm writing bluegill 60 times on my journal, right? So this year, for example, I got 672 fishes, meaning different species, right? 46 different species of fish, and I have fished 46 times, including sessions that, you know, I didn't catch anything, right? So 46 fishing sessions. And I can tell you that this usually for my style is very, very low. Very, very low. Usually at this time of the year, for a year that I fish a lot and life is not too busy, it is usually already in the 2000s for the number of fish. Even species wise, it's usually above 100 with a bunch of what we call lifers, right? Which are species of fish that, you know, I have never caught before. This year, I have not caught a single lifer yet. I started the year with 309 and I am still at 309. Life has been a little bit hectic. Yeah, for sure.
I've been fishing 4 or 6 times this year. Wow. Okay.
You definitely need to go out and fish some more, Zach. That's for sure.
Jeez. That's
think
why
I've
I say
hit 10.
I do the podcast so I can live through people like you. That's the thing. I live vicariously. How important is a fishing journal? I've never kept one. Sean was working on keeping one this year. But what do you find the importance of it is?
Oh, it is definitely very important to keep a journal. I mean, fishing is a sport that has so many different dependent variables, right? And that is the reason why it makes it so fun for us to go out there and fish. I know it sounds a little bit cliche, but people say it all the time. You can fish the same location in 2 different days, and the fishing is just going to be different, right? Yesterday as opposed to today. Keeping a fishing journal means that you can pinpoint a few more of these dependent variables, right, in your journal. So, for example, when I want, like now is July 18th. If I wanted to go out fishing next week, I have the journals from all the previous years. So all I need to do is go on my computer and type it in, for example, July 20th, and it's going to show up all the photos that I already renamed to the July 20th of all the previous years, right? And this is when you start to really see the patterns, even if you don't want to, but that's when you start to learn, you know? For example, back in April, if you just type it in April 20th and you see all the crappie and the crappie have certain colors, right? You start to realize, man, I think this is the time of the year that the crappie are starting to spawn or something around my area, right? And sometimes you look at the saltwater catches from all the previous years, and you start to notice that around May, June, you start to catch the bluefish down at the Jersey Shore, right? You look at the dates and they're all close to one another, so you start to get this idea. Like, I think it is around this time of the year that the bluefish migrate and the bite starts to get hot. So that's why it is very important for you to keep a journal, right? It's not only like, species like migration patterns and pre, post, or spawning seasons. There are so many other things that you can just look at your journal and just be like, wow, there's definitely a relationship over here. What I'm trying to say is, I guess the bottom line is that if you want to become a better angler in the future and catch fish consistently year after year, right? This is not just live listing or multi-species fishing, but I mean guides from all around the world, fishing guides. They keep logs and journals. People who go after trophy fish or are trying to break records, they keep the journals, right? And you learn a lot through that in order for you to consistently catch more fish in the future.
I have got a lot of learning to do.
You heard it here, Zach. You need to keep a journal.
I'll plan on it.
Yeah.
The journaling and the patterning of fish, does that translate to the micro species that you target as well?
Oh,
do
absolutely.
they have?
Oh,
Sean, I think the video you showed me, Leo, you were talking about some teeny tiny hook. Sean, do you remember what the name of it was? I thought it started with a T.
Yeah, the Tanago hooks.
There we go.
Yeah.
Is that something that came over from China with you? Is that something that came from there?
Actually, the Tanago hooks, they came from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, it came from Asia. You see, this is a whole entire new topic when it comes to microfishing. But back in the days, I'm talking a few centuries ago, in Japan, there used to be already anglers in the Edo period of time that used to microfish in Japan. Now, those people, they used to be the nobles, like they used to be the rich people of the time that had a lot of time on their hands, right? So they would go out there and they would try to catch the very, very tiny fish on very, very tiny hooks because according to the Japanese culture, according to the Japanese customs, it would take major concentration and skills to catch something that is so tiny. Now, this is actually interesting because if you look at the Eastern versus the Western culture when it comes to fishing, in the United States of America, people are always about, man, it takes a lot of skill to catch the big fish out there, right? So this country is all about big, man. You go out there, I want to catch the big one. But in Japan, back in the days, they actually really, really valued the small. And it just so happens that the species of fish that they would pursue back then, they used to be the tanagos, right? And there are different species of tanago fish in Japan. And people started to make hooks is specialized under like microscopes, more modern times, obviously. They started to make hooks that were specialized just for that species of fish. And that, when it comes to the Japanese history, when it comes to fishing, that is where the microfishing kind of stemmed from. Now, obviously, there are people doing microfishing all around the world. But you could say that, yeah, it was really like Japan played a crucial role when it comes to like its history and its customs to really bring us the microfishing culture that we have nowadays.
I knew that was what the hooks were called, but I never knew that it was named that after a specific type of fish. That's neat.
Yeah. It's they call it the Japanese beaterlings, and it's called the tanago. And I don't remember how many, but I believe more than 10 different species, and they're all very, very tiny. And even when it comes to being tiny, like 2-3 inches, the Japanese folks, even up to this day, there's still the subculture that they still try to catch even the tiniest of the tiniest among the school. Yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy. Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, it's just for fun. See, like test the limits of how finesse and small you can go. I guess it is kind of fun in its own way.
Makes sense.
That has to be, I mean, that is a uniquely Japanese thing. The amount of patience required and discipline.
Oh yes, it is absolutely.
It's kind of funny because a few weeks ago I sent Zach a link to a video of guys talking about different magnum worms. Like I think the smallest worm featured in the video was like a 12-inch worm, and they went from a 12-inch all the way up to a 20-inch soft plastic, and I was just like, I can't even like picking that thing up out of the tackle box. I would be done. Like, here we go. All right, I can go home now. And to me, that laser focus on microfishing down to trying to catch the tiniest of the tiny is that same kind of concept. Like you get there and you've got the smallest hook that you possibly can get, and you painstakingly tied it on, and you've got crumbs of bait, and you catch one. That's good. I'm done. I'm ready to go home now.
Yeah,
I achieved my mission.
I can tell you, the microfishing can be very frustrating. That's for sure.
Do people look at you kind of odd whenever you're out microfishing? Like,
absolutely. People look at me odd already, even when I am not microfishing, just because I'm shooting the YouTube videos, right? I mean, I'm doing it at public spots all the time with a lot of people, and when I do the What's Up YouTube, it gets all the attention because it is very loud. Mm-hmm. People don't really understand or know that it is a part of my job or that I'm doing a sketch, right? It is different from the folks who do the movies out there that they close the whole block and the actors are there and the big cameras. But when you have one tiny GoPro and you're just going like, "What's up, YouTube?" Everyone just looks at you like you were crazy, right? So I will tell you a story to exemplify what I'm saying too. And this happened when I was in California. I went to San Diego to do some fishing. And there was this very busy area with a lot of restaurants, people like don't forget, this was pre-COVID. So like a lot of people out there. And I saw a little type of goby or something in the rocks of the marina, right? So obviously I had my fishing rod. I was done I was almost done with the video, but I was like, oh, I need to catch that because that's definitely a species I never caught before. So I just found this little slab of concrete, and I kid you not, man, I just got on fours, like a grown adult, 30 years old, all on fours on the concrete slab with a rod, right, in a location that people don't fish at all. And people were looking at me really weird. It was very hard to catch that fish. So 15 minutes, I had all these people look at me like, what is that kid doing? You can hear them talking like, is that kid crazy? And once I caught the fish, it was a chameleon goby or something. But man, it was like a 3 to 4 inch fish. And I was so happy. I yelled, like I gave a victory kind of yell type of thing, And people thought that I was even crazier, right? Because they were like, so that's what the kid was trying to catch over there, like one tiny little thing this big. But for me, it was wow. It was like the best thing that happened throughout the day. And when I posted that YouTube video, needless to say, people enjoy it very much, right? But for people who are watching just there, like eating their pizzas and stuff, they always think you're just crazy. Yeah.
Well, that I think Sean was onto something with the whole magnum-sized lures. The American mentality of fishing is we're going to go out and catch slabs, hogs, huge fish. We don't care about little fish, and that's evident in the way we grew up. Sean's dad, I've heard it. We show him pictures of some of the green sunfish we catch. He goes, "I ain't fish. I don't even count."
Yeah. No, it's still like that even nowadays, for sure. Yeah.
I want to know some of the rigging considerations for microfishing. Okay. Rod, reel, line size. How do you get set up to do microfishing?
You have to have a tackle that is very light. The tackle that I use on my YouTube channel is actually considered heavy for microfishing already. I use an ultralight setup. So it is a Daiwa rod, 5'6" in length. For the line, I use 4 pounds test line. And the hooks, it varies all the way from like a size 10 hook to a size 30 hook, which is really like fly fishing, tiny, tiny hook, to the Tanago hook. With the Tanago is also a size 30 hook, but it's like a variation made specifically so that you can hook the tinier species, especially the ones with the smaller mouth, better, right? But like I mentioned, this setup is still heavy. Like the folks who consider themselves to be authentic, like really heavy on the micro fishing culture, and they really enjoy the Japanese culture. They actually have those rods that are called Tenkara rod, and these rods there are kind of like little poles that you see online. Man, let me tell you, they're not cheap at all. Okay, a good Tenkara rod is like in the couple $100, range. It's crazy. It's just like a tiny ass little rod, with a very light line and one tiny hook. But if you want a good one, oh man, yeah, be ready to bleed your wallet. That thing is like $300, $400. You would not believe. And when it comes to the rigs for microfishing, it can be very frustrating. You do need to tie, all your knots and even put bait on the hook that is very, very small. A lot of people, including me, we trim our baits on the hook using tiny scissors like this one. So after you put the bait on the hook, you have to make sure that you didn't put too big, otherwise the fish won't be able to get to the. So you have to go there and trim it a little bit, like you're doing some kind of clothing type of thing. But yeah, it does really work at the end of the day. But yeah, you have to be very, very finesse. So it can be very frustrating.
I tie flies. That's something I've done for a while now. If I get down to a size 18 hook, I'm struggling. So the fact that you use a size 30 hook,
Dude, yeah, I hear you on that. It can be very frustrating. Believe me, I know that firsthand, man. Yeah.
what's your favorite species that you've got that's on your life list? Do you have one that stands out?
Actually, yeah, I do. There's one triggerfish, the red tail triggerfish, that I actually really like, that is on my life list. And the reason I actually like it a lot is that one, it is a species that you don't see life listers catch a lot. As a matter of fact, I think in the entire life listing community, I'm really not sure if another life lister has ever caught one of these on hook and line before.
Wow.
And that is like one of the reasons I really like it. Another reason is that usually you are not able to sight fish this species. It is usually in very deep coral reefs kind of environment. So that sample was like very special. I don't even know how it happened. It was just in the marina, swimming around, two of them. I have a YouTube video, threw the bait right in front of it, took it, boom, 3 seconds, it was up. But it's one of my favorite catches ever, right? Oh, not to mention that people who have fish tanks, at home, they really like this species of fish. So it is actually a pretty expensive species too. A good size sample of that species can run for more than $1,500 in the aquarium trade for saltwater fish. So that's like reason number 3 that I really, really liked it.
Wow.
Is a common lifeless species that you haven't been able to catch, that the elusive one that you've tried for and it just seems to always get away or never show up?
Oh man, for sure. Every year there are always 3 or 4 species like that. That it's like I time it for this time of the year, and I go out, and everyone else catches them, and I don't. It is the craziest thing ever. Like right now, July 2021. For the last 2 years, I've been trying to catch this I call it elusive. It's not really elusive. It is just a species in New Jersey that is called the northern stargazer. And this is a species of fish that lives in deep waters. But once the summer comes, they come to the shallow areas, the surf zone, so that they can spawn. They can lay eggs, and feed. So every year, once May, June hits, I'm like, okay, let's go down to Jersey and hit the spots that we know this fish comes, right? And try to finally add it to my life list. 2 years ago, I was there with two friends. We are using exact rig, man, exact setup, exact bait. We're casting parallel to one another, and the dude right next to me catches one. Gets me so excited because I'm like, yeah, dude, my turn's gonna come today. Never came for the entire year. And then last year, I go with the same dude, that dude no more. I go with the same dude, and we're fishing. By the way, that dude is my friend Dave, Simplex Fishing, and we're fishing, and he catches one. And I'm just like, man, what the heck? What is going on here? And this year, I went a few times, and guess what? It just did not show up. So every year, this is just one example, but there are always those species, especially the ones that are not around all year round, that you really want to catch when it's like this time of the year. And yeah, sometimes it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, I just save the same schedule, for next year to go out and give a few more tries. That's how it works.
Is there a fish on the life list that's, we'll say, coveted more than any other? Is there one that everybody's trying to catch?
Oh, dude, for sure, man. even within the live listing community, there are species of fish that are held in high regards. It is actually pretty weird to say like this because you would think the live listing community is like we're the anglers of justice that treat every fish equally, right? Not like the dudes who just call game fish and the other fish like coarse fish or trash fish. But no, man, even within the live listing community, there are like the species that are like kings that everyone wants for some reason they really like, right? And then there are the other species that are just like, oh, okay, like we respect it, but it's all right. So to give an example of what I'm talking about, a huge portion of the live listing community, they really, for some reason, enjoy the species of the pine barrens. Now, New Jersey just so happens to have a lot of pine trees. So the water over there is very tannic. It has a huge pine barrens environment, but this environment goes all the way from New Jersey down to Virginia and even North Carolina, right? And within that environment, there are certain species of fish that are endemic to that area, meaning that you have to go to that particular environment, that particular biome, for you to find the species of fish. And amongst all of them, man, there's like 4 of them, that are just like tiny sunfish that people really want to catch. One of them is the black banded sunfish. That is like the king of the king. Every time you post a black banded sunfish out there, people just go crazy, like, whoa, bro, like, you caught it, right? There's the blue spotted sunfish, the banded sunfish, the mud sunfish. But the main idea is, yes, even within the live listing community, there are these species that, is not just like, oh, my favorite or his favorite, but it's like the entire community, for some reason, just, is like the king up there. So, yeah.
I am stealing Anglers for Justice. That's mine now.
Yeah. That's definitely a good,
Sean, I've got other things I want to talk about. I feel like I've been talking a whole lot. Do you have anything that's crossed your mind?
I mean, tons of things. But I think one of the things that I want to ask about is featured pretty heavily behind Leo, and I don't know how much he's able to talk to us about that stuff. And that's the Euro tackle.
Okay.
I know you were actually you were my introduction to Euro tackle when you fished with the Metacraw and the Anisoptera.
Oh, that's what's up, man. Okay.
You showcased. I want to say you showcased the soft lock jig heads as well, and I was like, man, there's no way that little rubber ball on a jig head will work. And then I bought some of my own this year, and I was like, I need more of those rubber balls.
Right.
So I want to know, I mean, how did that relationship develop? Was it just a as an angler, I really enjoy fishing with these products, and you kept up a rapport with them, and it built more, or and like I said, if there's any of it that you can't talk about, don't hesitate to.
Don't worry, man. Like the things that I can't talk about, I'm a very blunt individual. I would
Mhm.
just tell you right away. But so everything that I talked about in this live stream is like you can put it out there, and there's no problem at all. Even when it comes to the owner of the company, Ben, back in the days, yeah, I think it started from strictly business.
Mhm.
Aerotackle was a new brand in the market, started around 2016, and there was this dude in Connecticut just making tiny little soft plastics, right? Bringing this entire style to the market that is like the micro finesse or like the ultralight fishing culture. So that is how I came to know Aerotackle, right? It was like a sponsorship offer that Ben just came to me and he was like, "Look, I want to pay you to advertise my products, right?" And that was actually a time of my life years ago, about 2017, 18, even beginning 19, that I was just getting started with the YouTube full time. So I was really experiencing with different sponsorship contracts out there. So I decided to give Aerotackle a chance, and I was just like, okay, man, let's do it. You pay me per video, and I test your products, and I always let him know, like, I am going to test your product, and only if I approve of the product, and I think, okay, this is good, I am going to portray to my following, and we can do the whole business, advertising, bringing you profit, so that you give me money, so I make profit too, right? This is how it works in the corporate world. So that was my sponsorship with Eurotackle back in the days. And we did it for about a year and a half, until I decided to cut all sponsorships from my YouTube channel. I really got burned out at that time. It was about 2018, 19. I got a little bit too deep into the corporate world of the sponsorships. And I started to realize, man, making videos like this is not fun anymore. Even if I am making money for these videos, right? I had signed a few contracts with a few different companies, not just Eurotackle. And some of those companies, as far as you sign the contract, there are eventually things that you like to do, and there are things that you must do because you signed the contract and you can't get out of it until the contract is expired, right? So that was about the time that I was like, man, I'm done with all this stuff. And I talked to Ben, owner of Aerotackle 2, and he understood 100%. He was like, okay, man, just take your time, cool down, and that was it. Then you fast forward a few years, Ben comes back, just like that, sends me an email, and he's like, "Bro, the company is going good, and I have this idea that maybe we should create your own line of lure, and we could work together." And I was like, "Well, I'm not making that much money nowadays, and I know that his product work good, so I was like, why not?" you know and that is how it came to be. I gotta give a big shout out to the owner of Aerotackle, because when it comes to my YouTube channel, I have always been very ambitious when it comes to my channel and my creations, but I was never really ambitious when it comes to, for example, creating my own line of lure or trying to put my name out there, right? So Ben, the owner of the company, he was really a very good and positive influence when it came to that. And working together with him, we kind of made things work. And the first time that I did sponsorships with him years ago, we had that payment system working and we shot videos, but we never really met in person. So it was like I never really fished with him or anything like that. It was like a strictly business. This time that we just did this contract, right, recently, it's a whole different deal. It's like I've been to his house and I met the dude, I met his wife, his kids, his dogs. Dude cooked me an omelet, like I slept under his roof. And I kind of came to realize, like, man, this dude is dope. How did I not realize that back in the days? So suddenly it wasn't just a partnership anymore, but it was like, man, I can really consider this guy like my friend. And this is where it stands nowadays with when it comes to my relationship with Euro Tackle. There is the friendship aspect, obviously, but there's also the business aspect. And we work along really well when it comes to differentiating these things, getting what needs to be done so that I can get paid, and at the same time bringing him the profits for the company, right? My motto when it comes to sponsorships, not only Eurotackle, but all companies out there, is that everyone in the chain needs to be happy. So as far as my subscribers and the customers are happy, and I have the promo code, they get a discount, the products work. And as far as I am happy, meaning that he's paying me well, he's treating me well, and he listens to my feedback. And as far as he is happy because I'm giving his company attention and profits, right? All of us are happy at the end of the day. That's a good sponsorship. If by any reason any of those is just not happy, I just wait until the contract is over and I cancel it right away, man. Yeah.
Well, what kind of influence did you have in the design of your lure?
I see. So when we first started designing the lure, and we are designing actually two more right now. That I can't really put the details out there, but
Uh-huh.
we're kind of working in the process of that. When I talked to Ben, pretty much just came to me and he was like, "Okay, man, we're gonna create a lure for you. What type of lure do you want, or what do you like to use?" Now, obviously, when it comes to Euro Tackle, we are talking about soft plastics that are very small, very tiny. That's why it's called the Microfinesse collection, right? And it is made for ultralight fishing, majority of it. So I told him that back in the days, and Sean even mentioned this in this lives in this podcast too. I really liked back in the days the Berkeley Gulp Minnow. It used to be one of my secret weapons. Nobody knew about it until Leo Shang used on the YouTube channel, and then suddenly everyone was like, "Dude, I got gold minnows with me." 1 inch Berkeley gold minnows, right? So when Ben came to me and he was like, "What type of lure I want?" I just gave it to him, very blunt. I was like, "Look, man, we need to create something that doesn't exist in the market. It has to be something that obviously is going to work good and people are going to love it, and it has to be a lure that it's like, I don't care if it is selling good or I'm making profits on it, but it has to be a lure that is like, I want to use it today, tomorrow, every day, so that I don't want to use any other brand out there when it comes to this particular tiny lure." So we really just took the Berkeley Gold Minnow in consideration for a fish imitation type of lure. We made a few scribbles, and Ben came with the idea like, "Okay, man, let's make it a paddle tail, because 1 inch paddle tails, they really don't exist in the market, at least good ones with tail that moves very well."
Mhm.
So we kind of questioned the idea a little bit, like, is this going to work? Is the physics behind it, the movement going to work, right? So we went with that, and we gave it to the engineer, and the engineer got our 2D drawings and turned that into a three-dimensional drawing, and he gave it back to us. We took a look at the model, and I was satisfied. Ben was satisfied. So from the three-dimensional model, a mold was created, and from that mold, the first prototypes of the EPF swim were created and sent to us for us to use. And that's pretty much it. I remember going to the creek last year with my first ever EPF swim. That obviously it wasn't out in the market yet. It was just a prototype. And my first cast of the Pennypack Creek, on a tiny little jig, just a steady retrieve. I saw the thing on the tail over there, and I was like, man, this is it. Because you got to understand something. I've been doing this YouTube thing for a few years, and when you do this for a few years, you do have a general knowledge of all the other products in the market too. So over the years, I did go out there and buy different, paddle tails of different sizes, especially in the range of 2 inch, and they would not, they wouldn't work good. It was very frustrating to me. I wanted them to work good, but it wouldn't work the way I wanted to. So when I saw that on that creek that day, I just gave Ben feedback. I was like, "Dude, this is it. This is it. This is going to work, and I think people are going to like it." And Ben was like, "Good, good." So after that, dude, it did take a little while for us to give feedback to to the factory, and the factory to start producing, and finally the thing came out this year, right? In total, really, it took about 1.5 to 2 years from the day that we decided we're going to do this to designing, making the 3D model, making the mold. One thing that I want to just emphasize in this podcast that usually anglers out there, they don't think too much about a lot of different companies in the market nowadays. And I can say this because Ben obviously has given me permission in the past to talk about this. Um, a lot of companies in the market nowadays, they use pre-existing molds to do their soft plastics. So it is really not that hard nowadays to go out there, even go on Amazon, right? There are different brands out there. There's this one called Bugs Molds or something, and you just buy the mold of the soft plastic and they ship it to you, and they have all the different designs from all the different lures in the market. If you want like a mold for like a Gary Yamamoto Senko style soft plastic, you can get the mold out there. Now, obviously, they're not going to advertise as Gary Yamamoto Senko, right? Copyright kind of things. But you can get the mold that is very similar. And as far as you have some plastisol and you mix this stuff, right, you can create your own baits at home. And this is what I really admire when it comes to Eurotackle and Ben. He creates things from drawings, not from molds. So that in the future, when your lure is in the market, it is very hard for other companies out there to just go there and steal your model. If it is a pre-made mold, unless you have a patent on it, anyone out there can get that mold and create their own lures and just put a different name and market under their company. But if you're creating your own mold from drawings, it is something very, very hard to do. So that's another reason why working with him is really good. It's like it's a lengthy process and it is a lot of hard work, but it does pay off at the end of the day. Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, the baits have been selling very well.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I'm very happy about that. Yeah.
So one question I have. Earlier, you mentioned about how your parents were slightly disappointed that you were YouTubing.
Mm-hmm.
What's it been like to bring your dad in on your YouTube videos? Those are some of my favorites. You and One Rod, One Reel Fishing. Whenever you bring your dads in,
I see.
That's always very touching to me. My dad's not a big angler,
I see.
but it's just wholesome to see you bringing your dad in.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I can tell you that just as I told you when I first made the decision, like, okay, I'm going to attempt to do this YouTube gig, my family was very disappointed. It was a stage of my life where I was thinking of going for a PhD in physics. So I had taken all my college exams. I studied really hard for those exams. I studied for 6 months, every day, 3 hours, right, of physics and mathematics. And my parents were very happy because I took those exams and I had good letters of recommendations from my professors. I actually got accepted in a few like good name schools in the country, like Harvard, Princeton, Berkeley, right? So, Asian parents, they usually like to talk to friends and family and boost to them how good your son is, right? So they just went out and they started telling the entire family, like, "Yo, look at my son. He passed at all these universities, right?" And just parents are really like that. So comes the day that I sit down and I tell them, like, "Okay, mom, I passed, but I'm not going to any of them." Obviously, they were really, really disappointed, right? And they asked me, "So what are you going to do instead of doing your PhD?" And that's when I pitched the idea to them, right? I tried to be finesse on that. I tried to be careful. And I told them, "Look, I have this friend, Mike, One Rod. He is doing a YouTube channel and he's raking in the money right now, right? So maybe in the future it's going to be like that for me too." And no, they were very disappointed. Obviously, they disagree with the idea. We didn't talk for a little while. We had to wait until things like cool down a little bit. And obviously, we started talking again because I told them it's my life, right? You are my parents. You care for me. I understand. But it is still my life, and I will do whatever I want with my life, right? And I told them too, like, don't take me wrong. It's not like I'm going to sit my ass at home and not do anything, right? I will still be paying my bills at the end of the month and making money and saving money in the bank. So they were like, okay, there's nothing we can do about it. Let's give the kid a chance, right? And it did take a good while for the YouTube to actually pick up. The first year of YouTube, like 2015, it was all like on the red. I was spending money from my tutoring job to sustain the YouTube job, all the trips and the tours and the videos and the time editing. What I wasn't making any profit whatsoever. People were enjoying the videos out there, and a lot of people were even complaining about the ads in the videos, but they just didn't realize that at the end of the month, for the amount of views that I was getting for the ads in the video, I wasn't even able to pay my bills or my health insurance, my electric bill at the end of the month. Finally, 1.5 years into it, that's when the sponsorships started to come and the views really started to pick up. And that's when, the parents started to realize, right? When I gave them the numbers every month, like, look, this is how much I made this month, right? That's when they kind of changed their minds little by little. And they were like, okay, this may just work out in the future. And I kid you not, from that moment onward, they started to invite themselves to come over so that we could shoot videos together for the channel. And I will never forget. We did like one trip to Florida, one trip to Louisiana, and my mother in particular, she started to watch the videos with her on it, right? And she's always been very strange about like fame type of thing, right? So she watched those videos and she was like, son, that's me right there. And look, 10,000 people watch this video, right? I was like, yeah, mom. I was like, yeah. So she started to be like, can we do more videos in it? I'm like, sure. I'm like, no problem, So that's how it was. I'll tell you this way. My family has always been about results. So obviously, if I told them that I would do the gamble, but the results didn't really come, I would end up apologizing to them for not listening to them, right? Because it really didn't work out. But thankfully, over time, I did work really hard. And, little by little, I started to see results and they started to see the results. So they become more accepting of what I'm doing. I would like to point out in this podcast, though, for everyone watching out there, okay, especially because I have a following that like there's some young folks out there. I did always have a backup plan. So just in case YouTube failed and everything failed and it didn't work out, I had my tutoring company, an LLC, is still open. I still have that open nowadays. So that if nothing works and I'm not making money anymore, like say one day YouTube just closes down, right? I can go back to my tutoring almost instantaneously. I have all my background checks in order, all 3 of them. I can work around children. So I always have that backup plan just in case, things don't work anymore. So it was kind of like a gamble, like, yeah, get into the YouTube, but it's like, if this fails, I'll go directly back to what I was doing. Yeah.
That's a very responsible thing to do. I'd be very tempted to just make YouTube like all my eggs in one basket.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's
Sean?
definitely not something you hear YouTubers really mention. Is like, hey, don't be stupid. It takes time,
Yeah, it takes time.
YouTubers typically are always like, hey man, I'm doing the YouTube, I'm making the money, it's awesome, you should try it, just in a different space.
Right. That is true.
Sean, you have any other questions?
Man, tons. Honestly, I could talk to you
many more hours.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned you've got 2 more lures in the works that you can't say anything about, and that's
correct.
just exciting. I enjoy watching the videos, and there are videos that I would like to, talk to you about, and there are things.
You know what? Hey, Sean, there are 2 videos in particular I want to talk to him about real quick.
Okay. All right.
One is the video where he comes to Colorado and goes ice fishing with Zach Jenkins from 12 Hike.
Yeah,
and the second one is where he goes creek wading.
I've heard that's
Sean
on the
Phoenix.
schedule in a couple years. It hasn't happened yet. But
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea what you guys are talking about right now. Yeah, that's why I'm just being quiet and just like following the logic.
No.
Like, okay, you know.
What I'm telling you is, Sean and I would like you to come fishing with us.
No, absolutely. No, I get that. Yes, we can definitely do it one day. We can definitely do it one day. Yeah. But again, I don't know when though.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
But believe me, Colorado. I mean, I plan on obviously going to all the different states in the United States of America, and Colorado is one state that I never been to. I mean, it's so sad for me to say this, but there are many other states out there too that I just have never had an opportunity to go to. So many species, you know, that is still need to be caught.
Western fishing is very different from me. You know, I came from the East Coast and I've had a really hard time adjusting, but I've found that ice fishing for me is very gratifying. It's super fun. I don't know if you've ever done it.
Oh, I've done it. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
And I'm dreaming about ice fishing now. It's July and I cannot wait.
Yeah, you know, wait, what do you usually catch though? Ice fishing around your area?
So trout,
Okay.
occasional walleye, sucker, bass, panfish. There's all kinds of species, but it's mostly trout.
I see, mostly trout. We can definitely make it happen in the future, man.
Ha, Sean, suck it.
yeah, we don't have anything exciting here. It's muddy water and
It's all trash fish.
Yo, believe me, you never know. You say it like that right now, but then comes to the day we're fishing out there and something really exciting happens or shows up, right? Man, you're gonna be like, "Whoa! I never knew this species existed in this lake."
I absolutely would be like that immediately.
Leo, if you wouldn't mind giving us a plug where we can find all your content, all of our listeners.
Oh, absolutely, yes. You can just look it up, Extreme Philly Fishing, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. That is pretty much, you know, what people know me as nowadays. People don't even call me Leo nowadays no more. It's sad. It's sad like that. I be out there on the streets, you know, and people be like, "Yo, EPN!" And the car just passes, and I'm just like, yeah. So yeah, Extreme Philly Fishing for anyone who enjoys some life listing, multi-species, you know.
And your promo code on the board behind you.
I'm sorry.
Your promo code on the board behind you for
yeah, this is just a little thing that I do for Euro Tackle, you know, Extreme Philly Fishing. Get 10% off, right, at eurotackle.com because times are tough, man. People got to save some money, you know. Yeah,
we're all about it.
Absolutely.
Sean, you have anything else you want to say in closing? I know we could sit here and talk for hours, but
the big thing that I would like to say is I know from being a fan and a subscriber of your YouTube channel, I know how busy you are. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with a couple of chuckleheads like us from Instagram, you know.
Actually, and mentioned that, right? It took a while for us to get this thing together, right? I think it took us more than a month, maybe even a month and a half, something like that. Yeah. So I mean, I'm very glad that we scheduled the date, you know, and I marked on my calendar, and we made it happen. No, it was very pleasant to talk to you guys, you know. I never heard about the 12 hike challenge before I talked to you folks. So now I know about something out there too, you know. It is great what you guys do. I really hope that the podcast and all the other social media platforms, they grow even more in the future. You get more people from different backgrounds, right? Or different topics, and things get good for you folks. Absolutely.
I appreciate that, Leo. I really do. It's a project of passion for me. So my goal is maybe to one day be as big as EPF. We'll see.
Oh, dude, that's dreaming small, bro. You gotta go all the way to the top. You know, man?
I want people to stick their heads out the car and go 12 high.
Hey, that's not a time, right? But it's good. It's good to be ambitious.
Leo, I am not going to take up any more of your time. I know you're a busy man.
It was a pleasure to be here with you folks, man.
I appreciate it, and have a good evening, sir.
Absolutely. You too.